For 31 years, the cast of Mrs. Doubtfire kept a secret about what really happened when the cameras stopped during the iconic divorce scene. It wasn't a joke that halted production. It was a tragedy that Robin Williams refused to let Sally Field face alone. We often look at beloved cinematic classics through a lens of pure nostalgia, forgetting that behind the manic energy and uproarious laughter, real human beings are navigating their darkest moments. When you watch that heart-wrenching courtroom scene today, you are not just watching two masterclass actors performing a script. You are witnessing a profound intersection of Hollywood history and raw human empathy that was hidden from the public eye for over 3 decades. It took until August of 2024, marking the 10th anniversary of Robin Williams' passing, for Sally Field to finally break her silence. In a deeply personal revelation, she exposed a cognitive dissonance that shatters our traditional understanding of who Robin Williams was on a movie set. To the general public, Robin was a Tasmanian devil of comedy, an unstoppable kinetic force who operated at an improvisational velocity that left directors and co-stars scrambling just to keep up. But the truth of the 31st anniversary of Mrs. Doubtfire is that the man beneath the prosthetics and the Scottish accent possessed a hyper-attuned emotional radar. At the peak of his career, while carrying the weight of a $25 million production that would eventually gross over $441 million globally, his greatest contribution was not a punchline. It was a silent, fiercely protective intervention. This paradigm shift forces us to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about the making of the second highest-grossing film of 1993. We are conditioned to celebrate the spectacle of the performance, but the hidden architecture of that production was held together by an unprecedented level of psychological safety that Robin deliberately engineered for his co-stars. To truly understand the gravity of what happened, you have to understand the chaotic environment of the Mrs. Doubtfire set. Sally Field played Aranda Hillard, the straight man to Robin's absolute chaos. Her job was to anchor the narrative reality while Robin spiraled into comedic orbit. She made a legendary pact with him early in production. She promised she would never break character, no matter what he did. And Robin, taking this as a personal challenge, relentlessly tried to crack her composure. He threw unscripted lines, utilized outrageous physical comedy, and pushed the boundaries of the scene. Yet she remained an impenetrable fortress of professionalism. But on the day they were shooting the devastating divorce scene, that fortress cracked, not from a joke, but from a phone call. Sally Field's father, who had suffered a debilitating stroke years prior, had just experienced a massive fatal stroke in his nursing facility. The doctors called her trailer, asking if they should put him on a resuscitator. Knowing his wishes, she declined, simply asking the doctor to lean down and tell him that Sally says goodbye. She was completely beside herself, carrying the immediate, crushing weight of profound grief. Yet, driven by the ruthless momentum of Hollywood scheduling, she wiped her face, left her trailer, and walked onto the set to perform one of the most emotionally taxing scenes in the film. She tried with all her might to act, utilizing every ounce of her professional discipline to suppress the trauma she had just endured. She did not cry. She did not tell the crew. She attempted to be the unshakable scene partner she had been since day one. But Robin knew. Despite the blinding studio lights, the chaos of the crew, and the intense pressure to deliver his own performance, Robin sensed a microscopic shift in her emotional baseline. He stopped being the manic entertainer and immediately became a protector. He walked over, pulled her away from the cameras, and gently asked her if she was okay. Sally tried to deflect, brushing it off with a casual response. But Robin was deeply intuitive. He pressed further, refusing to accept the facade. That was when she finally broke down and confessed that her father had just passed away. The legendary comedian did not offer an empty platitude. He did not ask her to push through for the sake of the daily shooting schedule. His immediate, decisive response was, "Oh my God, we need to get you out of here right now." Without asking for permission, Robin marched straight to director Chris Columbus. He leveraged his immense star power to completely halt the production track. He arranged for the crew to shoot around Sally for the rest of the day, allowing her to leave the set, go home, call her brother, and process the devastating loss of her father. He did this quietly, efficiently, and without ever seeking credit, creating a profound bubble of protection around his grieving co-star. This sequence of events highlights a fascinating counterintuitive perspective regarding comedic genius. We often assume that performers who operate with such high-octane extroversion are internally distracted, consumed entirely by the mechanics of their own performance. The filming of Mrs. Doubtfire was a logistical nightmare built around Robin's unpredictable genius. Chris Columbus famously had to operate 4 different cameras simultaneously, essentially shooting the movie like a wildlife documentary, just to capture Robin's spontaneous outbursts and the organic reactions of the cast. Robin generated roughly 2 million feet of film through pure improvisation. When you factor in the grueling makeup process, a daily marathon that required him to wake up at 3 in the morning and sit in a chair for up to 5 hours just to become the iconic British nanny, his internal bandwidth should have been completely exhausted. The sheer physical and cognitive load of maintaining that character under hot lights, covered in heavy latex prosthetics, would make any normal person highly irritable and myopic. Yet, inside that stifling suit, Robin Williams maintained a hypersensitive awareness of the emotional topography of the room. He was a master of reading the micro-expressions of human behavior. The very same observational skills that allowed him to mimic voices and instantly adapt to any comedic scenario were intrinsically linked to his capacity for deep, radical empathy. He could recognize the subtle tension in Sally Field's posture, the slight hollowness in her delivery, the invisible weight she was carrying. This completely dismantles the starving, tragic clown trope. Robin wasn't just using comedy as a shield. He was using his heightened sensitivity as an instrument to actively care for the people in his immediate ecosystem. This fierce protective instinct extended far beyond emotional support on set. It was deeply ingrained in his absolute refusal to compromise creative integrity, which perfectly explains the secondary mystery of the 31-year silence, why Mrs. Doubtfire never received a sequel. For decades, studio executives desperately chased the massive financial upside of bringing the character back. But Robin Williams possessed a fundamental aversion to the Hollywood sequel machine. In the early 1990s, there was a prevalent attitude among true cinematic artists that sequels were inherently cynical cash grabs that diluted the magic of the original narrative. Robin held the line against tremendous financial pressure. In interviews throughout the 2000s, he repeatedly stated that the scripts they presented simply did not work. The narrative mechanics of the first film concluded with the complete revelation of the Mrs. Doubtfire disguise. Trying to reverse engineer a plot where Daniel Hillert somehow needed to put the latex back on, like following his daughter to college to spy on her, felt cheap and contrived. Robin was protecting the legacy of the character, refusing to let it devolve into a repetitive gimmick. It wasn't until 2014, the very year he passed away, that Robin and Chris Columbus finally sat down to seriously discuss a sequel script that they felt actually had genuine artistic merit. But even then, Robin's primary concern was the physical toll. He looked at Chris and asked, "Boss, do I have to be in the suit as much this time?" He was in his early 60s, and the memory of the exhausting, punishing marathon of the 1993 shoot still haunted him. Tragically, he passed away before that project could ever materialize. When Disney subsequently acquired the rights to the Fox catalog, rumors swirled again about reviving the property. But Chris Columbus shut it down with absolute finality, stating that he would be incredibly vocal against any attempt to recast or digitally recreate the character. The creative silence surrounding the sequel is a direct testament to the irreplaceable nature of Robin's genius. Without him, the character is merely a costume. The heartbeat of the franchise was the man himself, and both his director and his co-stars have formed an impenetrable vanguard to protect that legacy from corporate exploitation. When we look at the broader context of how Robin operated within the industry, we see a consistent, repeatable pattern of using his leverage to shield the vulnerable. The story with Sally Field is not an isolated incident. It is a data point in a much larger behavioral trend. Consider the case of Lisa Jacob, the actress who played the eldest daughter, Lydia. During the extensive filming schedule, Lisa's high school suddenly expelled her, claiming her absences were too disruptive. She was devastated, feeling the heavy cost of her budding career. Robin didn't just offer sympathy, he took direct, authoritative action. He wrote a personal, impassioned letter to the school's principal, advocating for Lisa, explaining the educational value of her work on set, and politely demanding they reconsider their punitive stance. While the school ultimately refused to reverse their decision, the action itself deeply impacted the young actress. It showed her that a global superstar cared enough about her personal life to fight for her. Similarly, Mara Wilson, who played the youngest daughter, Natalie, experienced her own quiet moments of profound grace with Robin. During the production, Mara's mother was battling a terminal illness. Children in Hollywood are often treated as mere props, expected to hit their marks and say their lines, regardless of their internal reality. But Mara vividly recalls how Robin would approach her, not with manic energy, but with a gentle, calming presence. He would softly ask how she was doing, carefully avoiding any probing questions that might trigger her pain, while making it abundantly clear that she was seen and supported. He modulated his frequency to match the exact emotional requirement of the person standing in front of him. This is the ultimate legacy of the 31-year silence. We are not merely uncovering behind-the-scenes trivia about a famous 90s comedy. We are mapping the psychological profile of a generational talent who understood that the machinery of Hollywood is inherently cold, and who took it upon himself to act as a human radiator for everyone in his orbit. The tragedy of the Mrs. Doubtfire divorce scene wasn't what was happening on camera, it was the real-life heartbreak occurring just outside the frame. And the triumph was a man who refused to let his co-star navigate that darkness alone. He recognized that the human being is always more important than the product. So the next time you watch that film, and you see the chaotic brilliance of a man dancing with a vacuum cleaner or setting his prosthetic chest on fire, remember the quiet, profound stillness he offered when the camera stopped rolling. The laughter he gave the world was a gift, but the protection he gave his friends was his true masterpiece. If you found this deep dive into the hidden history of cinema compelling, and you want to truly understand the complex, unseen neurological battle Robin Williams fought in his final days, you need to explore the reality of Lewy body dementia and how it recontextualizes his tragic passing. The truth of his final performance is even more heartbreaking and infinitely more heroic than anyone ever realized.